Hi guys, Martin from Belief. In this video we're going to talk about how to add a custom general disclaimer at the footer of your website for specific pages on your website. So this is a general disclaimer that applies to an individual page rather than what we're looking at here, which is the general disclaimer that applies on every page. Now we just created a video on how to add the general disclaimer to your website on every single page of your website. Your website is delivered with the GD in place or a disclaimer in place, but you can customize this to your liking. And if you do customize it, more information will be present. 15 points of disclaimers or 15 points of compliance are required on the front page of your site. In fact, on every single page of your site, we cover them all. What you're seeing here is not the full disclaimer. It's partial. That's just so we don't expose a lot of information. However, when you go through and perform this action in Yabba, the full disclaimer will be created. Now, when we created this video, we had every expectation that we were going to go through how to create the custom general disclaimer. However, I forgot to do so. So this video just focuses on that custom disclaimer. So why would you have a disclaimer on one page that you don't have on another? And there are a number of reasons for that. Let's go through just a couple. In some cases, it might be that you have an equipment broker on staff who has different accreditations, and he might operate through an auto or an equipment aggregator as well as performing the service through your operation. There's different kinds of overlap that apply there. In that case, you don't want the auto disclaimer on every single page. It may be too lengthy, so you may want it on just the equipment pages and auto pages and things like that. That also applies to real estate agents. In some cases, you might be a real estate agent. I would encourage you to include the licensing on every page and abide by the real estate legislation. However, in some cases, you're disclosing certain types of property and opportunities that may require explanatory text, in which case you're required to provide that in the GD down the bottom. However, it is best served in line with the actual marketing asset. So if you've got a video or a statement or a claim, anything, stick the disclaimer as part of that. Having that in a row of accordions is satisfactory, and it certainly satisfies the legislation, but you would still include any relevant disclaimers inside of the footer. I do like it when we not disguise compliance as education, but you know, if you're talking about interest rates and so on, and you always have to disclose an LVR, right? If there's, and that's part of the design and distribution obligations, the DDO regime, where you are obligated to disclose limitations that might apply for certain types of products. And that's why, you know, nearly 100% of all broker websites on the market are non-compliant. And that includes all the aggregator websites and everything else. They tend to take a fairly strict focus on certain types of language and the inclusion of the credit rep details and so on, and tend to ignore everything else. But that is slowly changing. We do consult to a couple of aggregators who are putting additional measures in place now via our Matrix API, so they're able to evaluate those pages in real time and make recommendations without actually having to look at the website themselves. Now, a custom general disclaimer should always be provided on a landing page. First, on all our turnkey and integrated landing pages, there are two types of landing pages on your website, and one of them is reserved for pages that we create on your behalf through Yabba, and one of them is for pages you create yourself. Now, on all of those pages that are created via Yabba, we automatically add the page disclaimer here. That said, again, if any of the legislated requirements apply to us, and there are, you know, dozens of them, we will include that in line. You know, we don't hide behind messaging. We're not in the business of trickery. Disclosing everything and providing an education about those issues that, you know, there are compliance issues that lean into education. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's to our advantage in that it gives us an opportunity to share information with clients. And it improves upon our transparency and disclosure and improves upon the funnel experience itself. So there's a ton of things to talk about when it comes to landing pages. Certainly, if you disclose an interest rate, we talked the other day about rate bait, and wrote an article on our website called something, I don't recall, but it was about rate bait in search results, and that is the comparison websites listing at the moment, at the time of recording, 474, which is a green loan through Australia Bank, I think, which, you know, shouldn't be shown as the lowest rate because it's rate bait. It delivers someone to a website when the only way which you'll qualify for that is via a green loan. Those disclosures have to be made, and it has to be made clear, again, under the DDO regime, but also basic consumer law. And again, the Credit Act and a whole bunch of different pieces of legislation impose this upon us. So let's look at how to create a custom page on a website. That's a custom disclaimer on a website. And by the way, at the moment, this is showing on virtually every page. This is the same disclaimer we created in the last video, demo disclaimer for YouTube. That's another page I've just flicked to. It was the front page, and I've just flicked to another page. I don't know what it is, but it's the same disclaimer. So let's tailor this now. Okay, from Yabba, we're on one of the social Centrify module pages now. We're going to select website management, and we're going to select the little icon here called general disclaimer. It's a little man in a cloak with a hat. It's meant to mean privacy, and privacy and compliance kind of pair, but they're diametrically opposed in a sense. Now, first of all, you've got your review panel. This is a record of all your disclaimers. You can edit to your heart's content. You click on that little edit link, it'll take you to the edit page. It's got a record of all disclaimers sent to your website. Now that's important, right? These disclaimers are saved to a database as you send them, which means it's consumer facing. As soon as something's consumer facing and it's in breach, you have effectively committed a crime. So you need to keep a record of all those things that you have sent to your website, even in error, because if a client or a customer makes a claim, then you need to be able to lean back on what was showing on your website at the time if they produce evidence to the contrary, or if they make claims to the contrary. And that applies in a really significant way to landing pages. You're probably familiar with the term "you're qualified" being used at the end of a bunch of steps forms, and people that have gone off and bid on auctions and all sorts of things without having made an application. All they've done is responded to a silly ad, and a couple of guys have lost their business and trail on the back end of that experience, which is part of the reason I guess I'm so heavily focused on having a compliant industry. Certainly from a marketing perspective, we set the tone. So, and by the way, it's not, you don't want to keep a record of just your disclaimers. Any consumer-facing information of any type has to be recorded. It doesn't matter if it's a Facebook ad or a Google ad or a YouTube ad or whatever ad. Everything has to be archived. Everything, without exception. That is a legislated requirement. So if you go and change an ad in Facebook, you need a copy of that old ad. If you're not a client, you can make a screenshot of that ad and file it away, stick it into a PDF and file it into a folder somewhere. If you're a client, we always take full synchronization. We say that again. We synchronize our database routinely with those ads you have on record, and always take AI screenshots as well. And we don't do that just for clients. We actually do that for the entire industry. Every single ad that a broker submits is ingested into what's called our Insights API, so we're able to make a comparison. So everything you do, and that includes phone calls to your mobile, phone calls to your office, conversations you have in the street, everything has to be documented contemporaneously. So time, date, place, everything has to be documented. So if it all goes pear-shaped, and there are people that have a real self-serving attitude, and they will take you to task on certain things, and they will try and seek compensation from you for all sorts of reasons. There are nasty people like that. You don't come across them very often, but they are there. So go to, well, check out those features in Yabba that prevent that from happening, because we sort of document most of everything on your on your behalf and then sync it to your CRM. Although that applies only to very limited CRMs at the moment. We're very shy, like we're days short of having a functional system for my CRM and all that sort of stuff. But that's kind of irrelevant. Let's just create this general disclaimer. All right, so we'll select a website. Now, in the last example, what we did was this. We opened up a panel, created the disclaimer. Again, the full disclaimer is not shown, but it will be shown to you. And do we set that as the default disclaimer, yes or no? Just set that. If you set it to yes, and then sync your website, that disclaimer becomes the active disclaimer. You'll usually just create one general disclaimer, and you'll go back and edit that repeatedly, and that will be the disclaimer that you use most of the time. There's no real need to have multiple disclaimers unless you have multiple operations, multiple businesses, and so on. In this case, we're going to select custom post disclaimer. We'll select the same company. I'm going to go through the process of setting up a business profile in another video. Now we're going to create a demo first home buyer I can't type general disclaimer. And we'll type in here first. That'll bring up there. Under our finance menu, which is the evergreen pages, the cornerstone pages, I'll select first home buyer. To make this stand out from the other disclaimer we just had, I'll just copy in a bunch of rubbish text there. That says custom post disclaimer over and over and over and over again. Note that there is no option to set this as the default because it is a page specific general disclaimer. Click save, and that's successfully updated the disclaimer. It does say you should send to a website if required. Note that your default disclaimer must be defined. If you don't define default disclaimer, the general disclaimer will be shown on your website. What I mean by general disclaimer is that one that we have created for you. And we sort of hard code in a lot of the text and everything there. So the next step is we're going to update our website. When we want this to be active, we select our website and submit. Those changes are made immediately. Now it's worth noting that the assignment of the credit guide to your footer is universal. So it's just the one credit guide that's applied to each disclaimer on every single page. There is an overarching credit guide that's applied to the website. That's the parent licensing, and that's the credit guide that should be used. That's a requirement, by the way. It's a legislative requirement. There are a whole bunch of obscure requirements, like every page has to have your address and your physical address and a phone number. You have to have a link to your contact page and your appointment page. There are all these obscure references that are often overlooked. The credit guide, I think, is one of them. So if we go back here, we've just assigned that again to our first home buyer page. So I'm going to refresh this page, which is our resources page. I'm just going to refresh this and it will continue to show the same disclaimer. Apologies for the slow internet. No, it's there, it's refreshed. So that's actually shown a different disclaimer. My apologies, because I've actually updated some things in the background in the time that this is I've updated our default disclaimer. So this is the same one. This will actually, if I refresh it, this is another page. This will show that default disclaimer all over again, the one we have defined. And this one's for the front page of our site. Now, if I select first home buyers, that will show us a disclaimer which is specific to this page. We'll just wait for the silly internet to start working. Hopefully this page loads. Ignore this thing down the bottom. Come on. Gee, this is frustrating. You can see my mouse is actually frozen there as well. That's a problem with the screen recording software I'm using. It's not particularly good in that it does freeze up your page. And it seems every time I record a video, there's an AVG banner that pops up on another screen, and it tells me I have performance issues. That's ironic because it causes massive performance issues. So unfortunately I have to give it about 6 or 7 seconds to load before I can get rid of it, and then everything starts working again. It's a pain. The same thing happens when when Adobe updates in the background. So there you go. It's gone now. The page should refresh. No, it's not. This is really annoying, particularly given that I've recorded a video. Nothing is working right now, so I just have to... There we go. There's the first home buyer page. And if I scroll down to the bottom, you can see the custom post disclaimer, so on, so on, so on. And that disclaimer will only show on this page. You can see it does add a little bit of guff, a little bit of weight and size to the disclaimer there, but that's necessary. Final words, obviously you've got the privacy terms and disclaimer link, and you can link a lot of these details here if you want to. These are enabled via the policies link in Yabba, and we'll come back to those and talk about those in another video, because that obviously plays a big part in your compliance program. But I guess bottom line, guys, is don't hide behind untruths. The only way to gain the trust necessary in any kind of funnel is via those attributes we talk about all the time: expertise, education, experience, authoritativeness, and trust. They're the big ones. There are other components to that, but they're sort of the big ones. So engaging with compliance and explaining to people why something is in place and why it's necessary is very important. Disclosing the nature of a product so people don't waste their time. It's natural selection. If people aren't a nurse, they won't respond to a nurse ad. Actually, that's part of the reason I don't like nurse ads, is because, well, I do like nurse ads and allied health and all that sort of stuff. When they're run by nurses especially, I like people to be actually positioned in a market they claim to represent, but that's beside the point. But if you've got a landing page that's a product specific to allied health, and there are only 2, I think, in the industry that are specific allied or nursing products, then you don't want your everyday Joe responding to that. If they don't qualify for that, you know, don't make them submit their details. They'll certainly be suitable for something else, but you need to make that known, that this product relates to this particular occupation, or this product relates to this LVR, and so on. So don't lie to people. Undress yourself, expose yourself, and that will contribute towards the value of the page that you're on. Final words now. There was a previous system that dealt with the general disclaimer on the landing page and internal pages separately. That no longer applies. So if you're using the legacy system, as soon as you submit your first general disclaimer of any type, that general disclaimer will apply and the legacy system will be deprecated as far as you're concerned. The other thing is, some clients have an error that was introduced into their website where this entire section, the general disclaimer, is in bold. We don't want it in bold. We want only certain sections of it in bold. The rest is light. So if that applies to you, raise a ticket with us and we'll fix that for you, or give us a call over the phone. We'll fix it for you in real time. You can fix it yourself if you know what to do, and it is super simple because it's it's elemental. So there you go, guys. That's that specific general disclaimers for certain pages of your website. I promised myself I wouldn't go for too long, and I have gone for 19 minutes and 18 seconds to describe something that literally takes 5 seconds to do. That said, the background information is important, so hopefully you got something of value from that. You can call or text me at any time on 0400 777 300. Our office number is 1300 235 433. That's 1300 Belief. And our website at beliefmedia.com.au. You can email me at martin@beliefmedia.com.au. Thank you. Bye-bye.